Hey everyone, it's Leandra from the Lexington facility at New Vocations Racehorse Adoption Program. I'm currently bundled up like I'm in a sleeping bag, but didn't want to miss an opportunity to address a question from somebody who had a question about keeping your horse's attention, especially one who seems really enthusiastic about sightseeing while you're trying to ride. So I have with me here Honest Money, who is a 2.5-year-old. He's doing some rehab rides and he's really bored with me right now, so we're both freezing our butts off right now, being the wimps that we are in Kentucky. So I figured I would take this moment to talk about how to keep your horse's attention, especially when you're doing stuff that can be really boring like rehab rides, or if you just have a horse who loses their focus easily. So I like to focus on what we can call the LCs, like my initials, Leandra Cooper, but we're gonna add a letter, so it'll be the LCS. So the LCs, and those are laterals, circles, and the stop and stand. So laterals, of course, I'm gonna just switch the focus back to Money here, see if maybe he can focus a little bit and help us out. He says this is super exciting, he'd be happy to help. So if you have a horse who's going to start looking at other things and not really listening to what you're saying, you can ask to either go towards or away from whatever is taking their attention. Usually I use their reaction as an indicator of how we're going to go. So if you have a horse who's turning their head to the outside and really wants to look at something and just not listening to you, use that momentum, put your outside leg on, and see if he'll maybe move off your leg that direction. So you're going to refocus the energy and the momentum that you're already having to do something that you're asking them to do. So instead of fighting them, trying to yank their head the other way, say, great, let's practice our laterals. And you can do the same in the other way. Say there's a horse who's distracted, the horse that you're trying to ride in the other end of the ring, and so their head's going one way or another, just to refocus what they're already doing. And Money really likes to try to eat the tarp, so that's why he's throwing his head around right now. He thinks that's a really fun game. So second part, so we have laterals. We're moving on. We're talking about the LCs. So circles is another one. I really like to use circles. I would just use the asterisk of don't use circles. If you have a horse who is rehabbing, just you can use big circles. Little circles might be a little tougher. It might put a little too much torque on those sensitive soft tissues if you have a horse who's more prone to have issues or recovering from something. So just be careful with it. But if you have a horse, this is a great one. I was just talking to my parents earlier who had a question about a picture that I thought was really entertaining. And they had questions about where it was a horse who was bucking. And it was one of our young horses who's been thoroughly checked out by vets. He's not upset. He just thinks he's really funny. And will buck every once in a while if he has decided that he doesn't want to do whatever you're asking, or if he just thinks that he might test his rider. And Money's really bored with me right now, so I am actually going to put him in a little circle. And so that was a perfect example of redirecting his attention. So he was starting to pop up, not maliciously, he's just really bored. And it's cold, so he wanted to do a little mini rear, and so we just went in sort of a soft circle. We're back to a standstill, and it's just a great way to just redirect their attention, work on reprogramming that reaction of I'm bored, I want to do something, which is not uncommon, especially with these really young guys. Like I said before, Honest Money here is only 2.5, and we're just doing controlled exercise rides. 2-year-olds we generally try to ride minimally, but he does not take care of himself well in a paddock, so this is his other option. So laterals, circles, and circles again, we're redirecting that energy. If you have a horse who wants to drag in your hand, even like just not listening to you in another way, that's a great practice, so you're not trying to just yank back on their face. Put them in circles, try to fit as many circles as you can into the long stretch or the short side or just anywhere in the ring. If you find them losing attention, if you find that they might want to buck or rear, they have a very hard time doing that when you're asking them as soon as you start to feel it to circle. So redirect their attention that way. That can work as well for a horse who's just losing focus. So you're riding, just put them in a nice circle, big or small. So lateral, circles, and then S. S is the stand, stay. That's kind of what we're doing. So they'll lose focus just staying, but I always will ask them for the stop and then ask for a little backup. And what works really nicely is if you're asking them to stop and then stay, backing up, you can add to that. Some of the young ones, it takes them, they find a reason to object to that. But if we can just stop, stay, ask them to start back up, and really try to engage their hind end when you're asking for that. You don't want it to just be a drag from the front. You want it to be a push off from the back. So I'll ask him to stop, stay for a second, and then push off with his bum. And I'm really going to try to use my seat bones and try to ask him to go again. And so he's turning his head. I'm going to ask him to just turn. We'll do a big circle and then stop, stay, start back up, change directions. So these are all good strategies for lots of different focus losses. So if you have a horse who might be a little naughty or bored, if you have one who really likes to sightsee and you'd rather be working on stuff, try to use the LCs, and hopefully that will answer a few questions or solve some problems when you have horses who are losing focus. Honest Money here really likes to go over poles, so that's another thing that I like to do when he's just seeming like he's looking for excuses to be naughty, that I'll just point him towards a pole because he thinks that that gives him a goal and something to sort of point towards. So lots of different options there, but LCs are a good thing to go back to. Hopefully that answers some questions and you guys can take some insight from that. Thanks for joining us for our late Trainer Tip Tuesday, talking about focus and getting attention from a horse whose attention might be wandering. So thanks for joining, and tune back in next week for another trainer tip. We love getting suggestions. So if you have any questions or things that you want me to talk about, I'm happy to hear from you. Just drop in the comments whatever you want to talk about or any questions. And thank you again. All right, bye-bye.